Hi, welcome to Fate Brewing Company. My name is Steve McFate. Today we're going to cover the basics of brewing beer. Beer is made up of 4 different components: water, malted barley, yeast, and hops. Each one of those ingredients plays an important role in the final product. The process starts out with malted barley being steeped in hot water. It's done in a vessel called a mash tun. Mash tun holds roughly 400 to 500 pounds worth of grain at one time. Grain's loaded up, we infuse it with hot water, and during that process, various sugars and starches are being extracted from the grain, which is the foundation for the beer. Malted barley gives the beer ultimately the color profile, the mouthfeel, and a lot of the overall flavor that comes from the beer, whether it's something that's got a little more sweetness to it or a little drier profile to it. So it's the fundamental first step in brewing. So once the mash is completed, we're ready to transfer over to the brew kettle. Brew kettle is this vessel here. Think of it like a big pot on your stove at home. It's got a gas burner on the bottom of it. The liquid from the mash tun is transferred over. We fill it up to roughly 250 gallons, and we start to boil that liquid. At that point, it's called wort, W-O-R-T. It's a sugary, very viscous solution at that point in time. And over the course of an hour to an hour and a half worth of boiling, it starts to thin a little bit. We're also, during the boil, adding hops at a variety of times. The hops that are added during the initial portion of the brew are related to the flavor profile that the hop will impart into the beer. Later additions, for example, in the last 5 or 10 minutes of the boil, would all be for the aroma, so the smell of the beer that you're actually, smell of the hops in the beer that you're actually going to pick up as a nose on the beer. Once the beer is done boiling, we're ready to take it over into a fermentation vessel. Beer is transferred via hose into the fermentation vessel. At that point, we're also pitching the yeast in. The yeast ultimately eats the sugary solution, creating CO2 and creating the alcohol in the beer. Fermentation roughly is a week to 10 days or so, and we'll take different readings throughout the fermentation process to make sure that we're getting the alcohol content that we need out of the beer and that we have the proper residual sugars. Once we're done fermenting and we're satisfied that we've got all of the alcohol content out of it that we possibly get, we're ready to take it over into our conditioning vessels, and that'll be the next step I'll show you. So now that the beer has been fermented, it's ready to be transferred over into a conditioning tank, which are these vessels here. The beer is transferred over and settles roughly for 4 or 5 days. The cold room here is about 38 degrees, so it helps all the particulates in the beer kind of settle out to the bottom. Once that process is done, we'll go ahead and inject CO2 into the beer solution, which is going to create the carbonation and the mouthfeel and the bubbles in the beer. At that point, we're ready to actually hook these vessels up to a chase line that runs directly up to our beer tap. A lot of other breweries would end up kegging it at this point, but we're small enough that we can serve directly from this vessel to the tap that you can have at the bar.